influenced or has some effect by his surrounding. You cannot escape the happenings that is happening around you or within your society, whether it may be a social factor, or it may be a psychological factor, or it may be an economical factor, or it may be a political factor. But somewhere the influence is very much seen on every individual of its age. Every age has its impact on an individual, and so are the writers even too. So they are not left out of it. And T.S. Eliot, you can say that T.S. Eliot is main collection of his writings can be seen in his one book, that is The Sacred Wood. The Sacred Wood is one of the important collection of essays that has been published by T.S. Eliot, and that was in 1920. That was in 1920, where you find all sorts of literary opinions of T.S. Eliot. Where you find, and today in my lecture, in the first part, I will deal with some of the concepts of T.S. Eliot. He has developed some of the concepts of literature, which has very much been talked about, which has been discussed about by many writers, many intellectuals. And most prominent concepts of T.S. Eliot, which I would like to discuss here, is first one, that is objective correlative, and of sensibility, unification of sensibility, and somewhere I would like to pay a very light on impersonal. I would like to discuss on these things. And by the particular thing, the first thing that I would take, the first term that I would like to take here is objective correlative. Now, the term objective correlative. What is objective? Objective is ultimately something you have you have a purpose, you want to deal with. And again, correlative. What is correlative? Correlative is the mutual understanding with which you are going to carry your objectives. So there should be, so the importance of two standing side by side is essential, according to T.S. Eliot. Without these two things standing side by side, no art, no creative can be carried in a proper way, in a very effective manner. Anyone can use the art, but art is very much acceptable. It should be acceptable, and that is what was the purpose of T.S. Eliot by discussing about objective correlative. That a writer should be very much connected with the reader. A reader should find himself or herself very much connected with the writer, and an objective correlative, as it has been used T.S. Eliot, that doesn't mean that the term was framed by T.S. Eliot. No, it was not framed by T.S. Eliot, but in fact it was framed by Washington, an American painter as well as a poet. He was a painter as well as a poet, and it was around 1840 he has used this term. That was, but he could not popularize this term objective correlative as T.S. Eliot did. So you can say that the term may be framed by that Washington, but it was not the people, we as an literary intellectuals or literary readers became to know this term with the help of T.S. Eliot. It was T.S. Eliot who made us familiar with this particular term. And objective correlative, when you go through it, you find it is very close to the Images movement. It is very close. What was the Images movement? Images movement was led by T.E. Hume, and he was a man who had much influence on Eliot. T.S. Eliot may have influenced many people, but T.S. Eliot was influenced by T.E. Hume, and according to the Images, what you find Images is that they wanted precision, very clear imagery, language should be very much clear, and language should be very much sharp and helpful for the reader to grasp it. It should not be very much difficult, be very much simple, was what the Images wanted. So they denied what? The classical even, and they denied even the classical form of writings, and they even denied the romantic way of writing, because they wanted something that was realistic, and they didn't even want to make the things very difficult like the classical writers. And so you find that objective correlative was very much close to the Imagist movement. And as for T. Hume, I would say that his philosophy was completely based on what? He believed in religion, tragedy, and classic. He believed in this three things. And he said that tragedy is the concept central part of life. A life cannot be complete without a tragedy. And again, he said that a man is never perfect. A human being is never perfect, only God is perfect. So he said, don't go looking for pleasure, don't go looking for perfection, because no one is perfect here. And accordingly, you need to work. And you can say that I imagine they also had very clear thing that writings of the 20th century should be very much close to the people. So now I would completely shift to my term, that is objective correlative. By objective correlative would give very written definition of the let me have. He says that objective correlative are Eliot, a set of objects, a situation, a chain of events, which shall be a formula for the poet's emotion, so that when the external facts are given, the emotion is at once evoked. So I say here again, what you find here, that object, situation, everything should be there, but what is the important factor here? Emotion. Emotion has to be created by the writer. Our emotion, the same emotion should be within the writer, and the writer should be competent even enough to create the same emotion within the reader. Then only he can be a very effective writer. He can be a very effective writer. And so he says that the only way of expressing a very good art or expressing emotion. Emotion is only a form of art by which you can find a very good objective correlative. So the important because Eliot was emotion. Emotion was very much essential. And now he finds that, so you can say that there is a very positive connection between the reader and the writer that brings emotion. That is, emotion is very vital thing. And object is very essential. And by object, to bring correlation, you need to have the chain of events, the situations, the thoughts, and the feelings very much united together. These all things, when they have a mutual understanding, only then a good art is created. And while doing all his critical work, when he went, and this particular term, when it is popularized, when it has popularized, it has been popularized here. That is in the work Hamlet and his problem, which Eliot himself, the work created, or T.S. Eliot, that is Hamlet and his problem, where we come with the term that is objective correlative. And by objective, and here he says that Shakespeare in Hamlet, writing Hamlet, he has failed to bring about this particular objective correlative. He could not create a very good, though Hamlet, I would say, is considered to be the Mona Lisa of literature, is considered to be the Mona Lisa of literature, but T.S. Eliot does not agree to it. He says, no, Shakespeare, being a very great dramatist, has failed here to bring an emotion, to create emotion between the writer and himself. That is, he says that no, there is no proper connection of emotion that he wants. And he says that what is, when the writer, Shakespeare has failed, he says that Hamlet has been present as a mad character. He is bad. We find that he is somewhere very much psychologically much affected. Find his mother betraying his father, and with the unification of the uncle, she killed his father, and he, knowing about all these things, he is very much confused. He is very much baffled. And this particular thing, he says that this bafflement or this madness could not be brought by by Shakespeare in a very proper way. And to bring this madness, he should have used a very very good emotion which could connect the reader and the writer, the Shakespeare and the reader. But
here is what again I would say that T.S. Eliot may not be very much convinced by the writing of Hamlet, but many of the other literary critics before T.S. Eliot, they have agreed to that no, Hamlet is one of the best work that has been created by Shakespeare, and where he finds the failure. Now, where he finds the artistic failure, I would say, not failure, artistic failure. Artistic failure, where he is that uh, we come to know that, okay, Hamlet is mad, he is very much confused, knowing about the fact, but the madness of Hamlet is not within the character, within the act of the character. It we come to know about his madness only with the help of what? With the help of the dialogues that Shakespeare has written in the drama. That okay, the Hamlet is mad. Hamlet is very much confused. He is depressed by knowing the reality of of his mother and everything. But there is no certain emotions that Shakespeare has tried to create that could connect the reader by some scene or some get some imagery that no, Hamlet is mad. No, here he says that no, Shakespeare. But it is not in all kinds of work. He has even given certain examples of Shakespeare's work, and he says that no, if you look into the other writings of Shakespeare, you will find that Shakespeare has written very much good dramas where he has connected with the reader in a very emotional way. And you can he has given the example of Macbeth. He has given example of Macbeth. He has mentioned the sleeping scene of Macbeth, and it is very true that when we talk about the Lady Macbeth and her very much madness, she is very much now confused. She is very much baffled and nervous. And how we come to know about her nervousness or about her madness? It is when she starts walking in her sleep, remembering all her past deeds and everything. When we recall the past deeds of Lady Macbeth, we would come to realize that no, really these things can make her mad. So he says that Shakespeare has very beautifully connected Lady Macbeth with the readers. And again, some of the other plays also we can say, even if you take Romeo and Juliet, if you find the feeling of Romeo for Juliet, it has been very beautifully mentioned, characterized by Shakespeare, by the emotion, by the feelings, by the certain words of Romeo. You can know what sort of feeling he actually had for Juliet. And the best one is Antony and Cleopatra. When you look into this particular drama, one of the best work of William Shakespeare, you will find that Antony's infatuation for Cleopatra. Infatuation for Cleopatra is very much revealed, especially when he comes to know about the death of Cleopatra, which is a fake thing, and he kills himself, he commits suicide. So the feeling is very much aroused. The reader gets aroused by the emotion. It's not no one can deny that in these sorts of drama, he has been much capable of creating an emotion within the readers. And whereas T.S. Eliot says no, Shakespeare has failed these things too in his Hamlet. And again, if you look into this Othello, I find it very when I when I feel the objective correlative, and when I try to connect it, I find Othello, the suspicion of Othello by just finding out the hanky and all that, handkerchief and all that, that really gives you a feeling okay, a man can be very much suspicious if he finds his beloved or a wife's hanky or something in other one's bedroom and all that. So these are the things that connects the reader with the writer very beautifully. Some Eliot finds that Hamlet is lacking these things of which was his important. You can say which he has done with these objective correlated. He has beautifully done in other works which he could not bring out in Hamlet. And you can say by objective correlative, he also wanted to make a very clear idea to the writers that okay, it should writing should also be based on the conceptual
symbols. It should be theoretical. It should be theoretical, and only then it can to the readers. If a writer has to be very much effective, he or she has to be very much theoretical in the things. So it is very, I hope you people are very much clear with what actually T.S. Eliot wanted to talk about in objective correlative, what he meant about objective correlative. Now I would like to switch over to the second term that has been the second concept of T.S. Eliot, that is unified sensibility. Now here the unified sensibility, what he means by unified sensibility. Unified sensibility, according to T.S. Eliot, is having unification of thought and feeling. What a writer thinks and what he feels. There should be a very good connection. And the thought and feeling can be also about two dissimilar things. It can be of very dissimilar things, but it should be very much unified. It should stand very much together. Only then it can be very much effective in criticism. Then it can bring, in art. And then only art can be very effective art. So he finds that Romantics and Victorians, and he says that these writers, they did not have the unification of sensibility. And with this particular term, that is unified sensibility, he has also given a similar a concept that is opposite to it, but somewhere the two concepts has a relation, that is dissociation of sensibility, where he says that the sensibility does not stand united. There is a voice. One can, if a writer can think, if a poet can think, but he cannot feel, and if a poet can feel, he is not in a state to express his feeling. He does not have a thought, that kind of idea to express the thing. So the two things are different in dissociation of sensibility. Now, and these terms were especially used in his metaphysical poets. While writing about the metaphysical poets, he has used this term. And you say that the term that is dissociation of sensibility was not actually, it was a concept, you can say, of T.S. Eliot, but it was not framed by T.S. Eliot again. But I'm sorry, it was it's framed by T.S. but the thing was the idea from a writer called Herbert J.C. Garrison, who has written Metaphysics has even tried to pay a tribute. He says that it is a tribute to Garrison, and he also, in that particular writing, that is Metaphysical Poets, he has talked about Samuel Johnson, where he talks about Abraham Cowley's life. By not only where he has mentioned about Abraham Cowley, but he has talked about most of the metaphysical poets. And he has somewhere not agreed to that metaphysicals they had read, they had concept, and they were intellectuals. They had quality of uniting two different things. He denied this, but T.S. Eliot, he finds that no, metaphysical poets, they had a very good sense of unified sensibility. They had a very good sense of unified sensibility, where he says that these writers, they could unite two opposite things. They could fuse two dissimilar thoughts in a very beautiful manner. And they were really intellectual writers. And he has also very good example by bringing out one of the quotations. If I'm able to find, okay. One of the quotation I would read one of the lines. Sorry, one of the line of the poem, "The Relic," that is written by John Donne, and he gives an example, and you will agree to it. A bracelet of bright hair about the bone. See, now there are two dissimilar opposite things. That is bright hair, and the other is bone. The beauty of the bright hair and the bone cannot stand together, but John Donne, he was capable of making it stand together, and
was able to arise an emotion within the readers. And he says that how beautifully he has done, and what he meant by that, his love is going to stand still when he is in the graveyard. When his line in the graveyard, he is still on my bone. What he means that I may be lying on in my graveyard, and all my muscles, all my skins would diminish or would not be there. Only my skeleton, my bone would be lying, but still there would be this bracelet, the hair, the bright hair, which is going to tie around his wrist, and that will act as a bracelet till he is there. His sense is there. That is a sense of loyalty. That is the sense of love that he wants to signify for his beloved. And T.S. Eliot finds that how beautifully he has used the two terms, the bright hair and the bone, and making the things. And if you read the lines, you will find that how loyal or how deep the love of a lover would have been for his beloved. That even after the death, he remembers that his beloved, that his loyalty wants to his loyalty, and says that even some, and he says, if someone comes beside my grave and he digs and he finds my skeleton there, he will find the bracelet, that is the bright hair there lying on his bone. That is the connection, he says. And again, he says that these are the multiple images, and which has a very good association, unification that has been brought together by these writers. He says that they have brought it very beautifully. And even when he wanted to talk about Samuel Johnson's Cowley, Abraham Cowley, and he says that how could one not agree to that Abraham Cowley was not an intellectual or good metaphysical, and who could not arouse the emotion. He has also given a very beautiful example of Abraham Cowley's, that is to destiny, when he talks about destiny, and he says that he has compared the world with a chess. Just it is moving to and fro. The light is out, and it is the movement, and he has compared the world with the chessboard. And again, he talks about John Donne's the valediction, where he says that the two lovers are like a pair of compass. Lovers like two lovers with a pair of compasses. So, can anyone imagine that a lover can be compared with a compass? A compass can also be a, but he has says that a compass is only complete when two things, the two legs stand together, and if one is not there, the absence of one makes it incomplete. So he says the love is something when there is two persons, a male and a female. A love complete the in the same manner it completes as the compass completes with the two with its pair. It is the love is a pair. It needs two persons in it, and he says that these metaphysical poets, they could smell the words, and when he says that when he talks about he says that Tennyson and Browning, they may be a very good poet, but they don't have a very good feelings. And the feeling of while looking at a rose, they could not spell out. They could do this. Looking at a rose, they could at once they could feel the smell of the rose. They could recall the smell of the rose, and they would present the rose in a beautiful manner that even the reader gets connected that okay, the word rose some represented, then it becomes very clear the odor of the rose is beautiful, and the fragrance of the rose is very charming and all that, and one gets very intoxicated and all that. And that is what he says, that small words, the physical poets could unite two similar things, and they could fuse two different sentiments together. So they had a very good command over thought and feeling. They have make the thought and the feeling very much united. And so here he says that unified sensibility is very much essential in writing poetry, and this he says that it has been missed by especially the Romantics and the Victorians. again, when he comes to dissociation of sensibility, he criticizes some of the very prominent writers. Like you can even say, like John Milton, Dryden, who was Dryden considered to be one of the very prominent writers of neoclassicism. And T.S. Eliot says they may be very much intellectual, they may have a very good language. He says that the language of John Milton was also very refined language. Even Dryden, he had a very refined language, but what went missing is that the thought was not, the feeling, the thought was there, the feeling was not there in their writings. The feeling, whenever the matter comes to feeling, the feeling was always raw. It seemed to be very crude. It was very much fine feeling. So he says that the prominent writers like John Milton or Dryden, they were ones who were very much he didn't find them very much effective. But somewhere John Milton and Dryden both, they have a very important contribution in the field of English literature, and somewhere English literature cannot complete without mentioning the name or the text of these two writers. We may not be very much the reading of English literature won't be complete without this reading these writers. And so he also, as I told you earlier, also he denied somewhere Tennyson and Browning. But as he was what he found among the romantics, that okay, romantics, they had the feeling but they didn't have the thought. But somewhere in two writers, that is in two works, that is one of P.B. Shelley, John Keats have written. He said somewhere in these two poems, these two writers, they have tried to unify the sensibility. They have tried, but somewhere the early loss of these two writers fails to give romantic literature that had unified sensibility. He says somewhere. But most of the writings, even of Shelley and Keats, he says that they didn't have unified sensibility. That there is a presence of unified sensibility. They could have done this thing in a later works, but they didn't get the chance as they died early. And again, I would say that Eliot has a great appreciation of for Donne. For John Donne, he has a great appreciation, and even he has a perfection, unified sensibility found in the writings of Shakespeare and Dante. And again, so this is all about unified sensibility. This is all about dissociation of sensibility. Now, for next in our further talks, I would shift over to some critical aspects. These are the concepts that Eliot wanted in the writings. But he says that what is actually criticism? What should be the criticism? And he has very beautifully mentioned that criticism is always a commentation or exposition on the works of art in a written verse. This is the definition that T.S. Eliot has framed for writing. He says that critics should always concentrate on exposition of works of art, and he says that a critic can be better if he is very much independent to moral, religion, and cultural ends. But this is what he meant, that the personal prejudice, the personal whim should not be connected with the art, with the creative. Sorry. The art and the personal feeling of the critic should not have any connection. So what he wanted, a critic should be very much intellectual. He should have the knowledge of facts. What is the fact here? The creative. He should have no connection with the poet, no personal relationship. He should only look at the creative. Into the creative, he should have a very high knowledge of facts. He says by this only a good criticism can be written and can be evolved. And he says the
education of works of art and the correction of taste is also one of the function of the critic. That is education. You need to educate yourself, and that is what I said, that the knowledge of the fact or the work or the creative, and again you need to correction of the taste is that correction by means is that you need to connect it with the reader. It might be that the reader might have missed something which the writer actually wanted to bring. And the function of the critic is to bring out those things which the reader has missed personally. His purpose should be to connect the reader with the creator. His purpose should be, he should have no personal feelings, no personal intention, no personal motive while carrying out the criticism. Again, I would say, and he has also criticized that criticism have become like a Sunday park, that each and everyone tries to criticize a work without knowing the fact. And therefore, he says that this is simply a failure of criticism. That criticism cannot be a very attractive criticism, or you are not justifying the work of art unless you don't know the fact. And a critic should not compete with a critic. That is also he mentions. A critic should never compete with other critic. A critic should have his own idea or his own knowledge. That should be a very essential thing while doing a critical work. And he has used mainly in the function of criticism. He has used the term that is creative and critical is only the thing that he has talked about. As I told you earlier, even that he did not agree to Matthew Arnold. And he did not agree to even the criticism, this concept of criticism of Matthew Arnold. He says that when Matthew Arnold says that criticism itself is an art. So what here T.S. Eliot says that how can a criticism be an art? Criticism is just an interpretation of the facts that the writer has written. If it becomes an art, then there will be a parallel art running together. Art one has been created by the creative, and the other art that is being created by the critic. So he says that no, criticism cannot be an art. Let me quote 2 lines of Matthew Arnold, where he says that where he says that creating of a current of true and fresh ideas. He says that you need to create fresh ideas. How can you correct a fresh ideas for an art which has already been created? Then you are creating a new art. That is what he says, that a parallel art cannot run in the form of criticism. You cannot do this thing. Then it becomes, you are not justifying with the works of the creative, with the poet. And he also says that criticism, he says that critics should not have a control. It should have no control. Whatever he wants to write, he should write. So if a critic does not have a control, how can he how can he do a justified criticism? Because he may be a bias. He may be, if you look into a rose, okay, a poet might have mentioned the color of the rose, and if you write that, okay, he wants to talk only about the red rose, about the love, and the critic comes out with that, okay, rose has a various color, the white color signifies peace, yellow color signifies friendship, and all that. So the critic is trying only to mess up with the creative. He is not trying to analyze what the poet wants to say, and his purpose is only to mention if somewhere the reader misses that, okay, the red color of the rose signifies somewhere the love, or the poet might have in his mind he has kept his beloved while writing this poetry. If this sort of criticism is brought about, it will help the reader to connect with the poet or the writer. This is what T.S. Eliot says, but here you find Matthew Arnold does not agree to. He says that criticism should be completely free, and it should be again a new art. It should come with the new ideas. And what I would say, that criticism is of capital importance. He says that it is a capital importance in the work of creation. And why he says capital importance? That it is somewhere very important, because everyone would not know that what
John Donne had in his mind while writing Valediction, or Cowley writing in his poetry. Somewhere, if the critics, they try to bring out the feeling or the sentiments of the writers with finding out facts and the connections, the readers will be helped out. So it will be somewhere, it will be shifting from one to other, and the rotation of the thing as the capital rotates here and there, and that is also the rotation of the feeling and the thoughts. That is what T.S. Eliot wants in the field of criticism. And T.S. Eliot even says that criticism cannot be why it is. Criticism cannot be an art because criticism itself is creative itself is a sort of criticism. Why it is a sort of criticism? Because the writer himself has gone through all the work. He has tried to analyze the thing. He has tried to connect with the things. He has to try to create the situation. So he has already done a primary criticism on it. So what kind of, again, creativity is required in criticism? No. The first hand criticism is always the creative. The poet criticism only should be based on the facts. It should be, and he says that criticism cannot come automatically. It should not be as the creative can come automatic. It can be automatic. A feeling can be aroused, and a poet can write about it. And criticism is not that. Criticism has a limited area. It has a boundary. You cannot jump over the boundary. You cannot bypass it. You have to do the criticism within that boundary only. But that is not meant for the creative. Creative has, as far as he or she can go, he or she can do. And even if you surpass it, it will be a very complicated thing. Suppose a writer is writing about a tree. If a writer is trying to write about a bird sitting on a tree, he may be having something about the musical bird like nightingale or whatever it may be, skylark, cuckoo, or anything. But if you have a different, you may be liking a cuckoo more than a nightingale, or you may be liking a nightingale more than a skylark. The difference of opinion will arise. So if you start talking about a singing bird in general, and if you have a liking, that will again not justify creative. The writer is concentrated on writing about a bird sitting, a nightingale sitting on a tree. If he is he wants to rotate, and you can't justify the nightingale in the poet's sense, then you are not a good critic. Simply, you are just spoiling the field of criticism. You are not even justifying the work of the writer, and neither you are helpful for the reader, he says. You are not helpful for the reader. And so he says that criticism is always a conscious state of mind. And creative is always an unconscious or subconscious state of mind, because you have to go into a deep imagery, you have to go into beautiful thoughts, imaginations, pictures, colors, you have to bring in it. But criticism is always a very conscious state of mind. It has certain aims and objectives that, okay, I have to cover up this area only. That is also, he says that it should be like this. And if this, if a critic follows that he has to do the work in a very conscious state of mind, then only the work can be very commendable criticism. And you can educate the people. It will be education of work. In fact, you can say it can be called as an education of work. It will be a commendable work. And so he says that that is the function of an ideal critic. Ideal critic should be very much in a very conscious state, and he or she should know about limitation. And again, I would shift to what. And again, he says that the work should be completely based on comparison and analysis. Okay, comparison and analysis should be there, but just to carry personal prejudice should not be. If you have an enemy with the poet, you should not compare him with not a compatible writer who would be very close to the writing. If you do such kind of things, comparison, you need to have a very compatible writer with that creativity.
It is not that you should not go on comparing with any each or other writing. As Matthew Arnold has used the term that is touchstone method, that to bring out the best of the writing in comparison to the creative art, and then you can analyze. But this sort of criticism will be, it won't benefit the creative, or somewhere you won't be in a right condition or right state to acknowledge the work of the writer. You won't be at state. And so he's, and again, the last thing in function of criticism that he talks about is that criticism, again, when you compare and analyze, is well and good, but you should not, he has used the word that is lemon squeezer. You just वो नहीं होना चाहिए. That should not be in criticism. Criticism should not be split hairs. हर छोटी छोटी चीजों को एनालाइज करने की बहुत ज्यादा जरूरत नहीं है, बहुत ज्यादा नहीं है. जो आप फैक्ट्स मानते हो, फैक्ट्स वो भी हिस्टोरिकल फैक्ट्स होनी चाहिए. द फैक्ट शुड बी हिस्टोरिकल फैक्ट. It should not be this, that, anything collected from anywhere. It should be based on the fact that is very much close creative, and it should be historical. It should not be that, okay, this, if I want to call mango an orange, I'll call it orange. It should not be that. So he says splitting of hair should not be, lemon squeezes should be avoided. Our criticism should only carry to a certain line in length. There should be a limitation in it. And that is all I can say that he has talked about function of criticism. And he says that a creative should always hear his voice. He says that critics should never follow his inner voice. Critics should always avoid inner voice. He should always concentrate on the creative. That is what. So again, one more thing that I would like to discuss here is a very important essay of T.S. Eliot, that is tradition and individual talent. Tradition and individual talent. That is, he, in that particular essay, he pays more emphasis to the word tradition, and he says that tradition is very important thing. It has very much relevance and significance in relation to creative. It has very much significance and relevance to the creative writing. And he says that tradition is not something that you need to, you will get it as a legacy. It is not. You have to develop it. You need to evolve it on your own. You have to, it is a type of creation. You have to create it. It is not that you will get it from your forefathers, or it will come over from generation to generation. And he says by tradition, what he means, why he says that it is something you need to learn, need to grasp, you need to create it, you have to evolve it. Why? He says that tradition you need to bring out in your writing. Just simply following the path is not enough. What is the purpose of a critic or a creative is that, especially the creative, what is the purpose, what purpose should be of tradition? Our tradition should be completely based on what? It should be a well connection of the past to the present. You need to correlate with the present. Only then a proper creativity would come, or just simply following the past writers and adopting their own style, it won't work. It won't be a good creative art, neither a criticism. And he says even that, as I told you earlier, I don't know if I mentioned it or not, Eliot very much agrees to that. A writer, every individual is somewhere influenced by his surroundings. And that has very much a very important role to play in his thought, in his feelings, in his evolving of writing. These are the things has somewhere to have to play an impact. A writer cannot be just left out the impact of his surroundings. Every age, and therefore you find that every writer coming up with the different ages, they have something to talk about the contemporary situations, social, political, economic situations. And that is what he says. So he says tradition is important, but you have to evolve it in your own way, according to the situation, according to the age, according to the circumstances. And therefore he says it cannot be inherited. You need to earn it, and earn it with the help of a great labor. That is with your own thought. And so again, and so here he says that while defining the poetry, he agrees to Wordsworth definition that emotions collected in tranquility. He says that the work of a creative, what should be the work of a creative? Creative work of a creative should be that the moment gets the feeling, he should write it. He should not waste much time on thinking, pondering, or analyzing the thing. Because then again, what it becomes? It becomes a conscious state, and you cannot create a beautiful art. Suppose if you are writing poetry, something about a poem on a tree. So if you and you find some girl sitting on a tree with a musical instrument. So you may try to, the moment you look into that, if you have a good imagination, fancy and imagination, you have a good thought, and you can connect your thought with a feeling, you would like to describe some romantic poetry, or you may even think of some philosophical theory, whatever comes to your mind at that very moment. But but if try to analyze it in later on, thinking about it, then you will again move on with the Matthew Arnold's theory, that is scientific theory. You will start analyzing the bark of the tree, the branches, the leaves, and everything, and the beauty of the art is going to be missed there. It won't be present there. So beauty is something that comes at random, or you get the feeling at once. And that is what the beauty is actually, the beauty should contain in a creativity. So here he agrees to that, and he says that poetry is not a turning loose of emotion, but an escape of emotion. It is not an expression of personality, but an escape of personality. Again, he says that poetry should not be based on personal feelings. It should be very much impersonal. The writer should keep his own individual personality separated from the creativity. And he says that the writer should have a very sense of historical sense. A writer should have a very good historical sense, and with traditional concept, tradition, historical knowledge with traditions. It should be brought into practice with the help of present situation, and then a very good art can be created. Again, he says that history, he has very much laid emphasis on the historical thought, somewhere in tradition and individual talent. He says that history has very important role to play upon. History cannot be denied in creativity. History cannot be denied in creativity, and but some says that our mind should not be completely controlled over by the mind should not be completely controlled over by history, and the feelings, the thoughts of the present situation should not be set aside. It should not only completely govern the thought. It should not govern the, and this is all he says. And again, you can say that T.S. Eliot was against the writing of autobiography. He did not favor autobiography. He says that autobiography is that part of art which only interests of certain limit of people, certain limited people. So favor of autobiography would not be very much interesting, and it is a very boring kind of literature. Yeah, but tradition, he finds that it is a bone of literature, bone of art, because if you carry the work is really going to be an outstanding work. And what he says to connect the tradition with the new one. He was always with a novel view. Novel here I use that is for the new. He was always looking for the new thing. So he wanted that just tradition, just try to unite the tradition with the novel things. That is the new thing, which the writer evolved on his own, with his own feeling. And again, you will say, again he says that history is only just a perception which will help you. It can help a creative writer. And again, he says that, uh, and above all, in this, I can say only that he wants a good connection between the past and the present. And lastly, I would shift to one very important thing, that is theory of impersonalization. Impersonal theory, where he says that impersonal is very much important in writing, where I said that there should be no, I mentioned it earlier. So from the very term that is impersonal theory, it is very much clear that first feeling should not be governed in, should not take over the art. It should not be taken over by the art. Personal feeling should be kept aside, and it is not only for the creative; it is also for the critic. That theory of impersonal theory should never have a very dominant place in literature, in creativity, in criticism. And lastly, I would say that if you read any of his plays or any of the works of T.S., you will find that he has set very good examples which you find very much relevant in the field of literature. And without reading T.S. Eliot, literature won't be complete, especially the 20th century. Even when you read his Murder in the Cathedral, he has written the drama in 20th century by actually the play, the incident, the theme, or the murder, which was which took place in the 12th century. It was of the 12th century, but it relates to right in the 12th century. It was a question. So very the tradition is very simple. He carries the tradition here with connecting the present, where he has seen the 20th century, the chaos, the disorder, the lust of power, how the government wanted to take over the religion, the church, you can say that there was a struggle for both the church and the authority. They wanted to switch this power, and the church was looking this independence. It was same thing in the 20th century. It was that every country was trying to prove itself very fast. So World War, and that at the beginning of war, every country or every man, they believe that war is going to be very fruitful. But at the end of the war, we come to realize that war has never been a very fruitful thing. It has never been beneficial. When you look into result of the war, it's really very painful. And so T.S. Eliot has very well connected the things, bringing out the tradition, justifying the creative, justifying the critics, and what actually the objective should be of a writer, how he should connect with the reader. He has laid the importance of not only of the writer, but also he has kept the importance of reader, what importance the reader has in mind. So it is all that I have to say here. So is my time up, or I have crossed the time? Hello? Hello?
No,
Yes, ma'am.
It's over. Yeah, sir. So I don't
it's
know
fine.
how far I have just.
No. You didn't exceed the time. It's fine.
So I have completed. This is what I thought of presenting today. And again, if I get a chance, I'd like to talk more about Matthew, because I find the two critics very different in their approach. So this is what I end my talk with these things. So I don't know how far I have been able to justify you, satisfy you people. Okay.
No, it
You
you can take questions.
yes, ma'am. Ma'am,
Sure.
as you said, ma'am, actually, T.S. Eliot made significant contributions to the field of literary criticism and strongly influencing the school of new criticism. And as you said that through the Wasteland also, it can be better understood in the light of his work as a critic, where he has argued that a poet must write programmatic criticism. That is, a poet should write to advance his interests rather than to advance historical scholarship. So thank you, ma'am. Thank you for this wonderful
You have
lecture.
very well
And with your permission,
pragmatic criticism. Yes, talk about pragmatic criticism, and that is
yes,
wasteland.
ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
no.
ma'am. So with your permission, we can take some questions, ma'am. Students,
Okay, let me see. Hello.
is there anyone,
Yeah.
any student who want to ask any question?
चलो किसी का
There must,
क्वेश्चन नहीं है.
there must be question when the topic is T.S. Eliot. It is surprising, actually.
हाँ.
Anyone, any student there? I
Sometimes,
think no
yeah,
question.
yes, sir, because Professor Yaya and Vasudha ma'am, I would like to say that we can have a intellectual discussion on a common platform.
Right. Saket,
Yes, sir.
if let the students come with some question. I have some observation, and Piyush ma'am, the observation is not for you. You know that it is an observation for the students only. That T.S. Eliot was basically a writer, or rather a literary figure, who started in a time when he had a lot of icons around him. Shakespeare was a huge icon around him. Wordsworth and other romantics were icons around him. And yes, the Victorians were great icons around him. And Shaw and Browning and Tennyson, Arnold, you are referring to. So they were great icons. And what Eliot
Yes,
did is that he deliberately damaged all those icons to create his place and his icon in English literature. And this is what he did. And he did it very deliberately. He attacked Shakespeare. He attacked Wordsworth and the
yes.
Romantics. He
But
attacked Ireland.
okay.
Yes, he attacked the Victorians. Even he was not happy with the neoclassicists. I mean, he was not very much happy with Dryden and all that. He was even not happy with Milton, as you said, that he found that there was not a marriage of mind and heart in the poetry of Milton. There is no marriage of mind and heart in the poetry of the neoclassicists. So what he is doing is
I
basically,
appreciated the language that you said.
yes. So he did it
Yes,
very
yes.
deliberately because usko he has to create a place in 20th century literature. Since he was not supported
Yes.
by any literary critic, generally writers are supported by literary critics. So what he did is that he himself started writing literary criticism to support his ideas. So whatever he did, whether he was writing a play or he was writing a poetry, he was clearly trying to establish himself as a great writer, as a great theorist, as a great thinker. You know that in the time of, dear students, you know that in the time when Eliot was writing, there was nothing like theory. There was no concept like theory. But in fact, he was unknowingly creating theory in his literary criticism. So he did it,
Yes.
and he did it very deliberately. And that is why when we talk about T.S. Eliot, when Piyushbala ma'am was talking about T.S. Eliot, sorry, you know that she has touched a huge number of essays by T.S. Eliot. She was referring to the essay written by Eliot regarding metaphysicals. She was referring to the two specific essays which Eliot wrote with regard to John Donne and Andrew Marvell. She was referring to an essay by Eliot on Hamlet. She was referring to tradition and individual talent, which is the mouthpiece of Eliot. She was referring to function of criticism. So I think that I basically forgot to count, but she has referred almost 7 and 8 critical essays by T.S. Eliot. And it is a huge task that she has done in this 45-50 minutes, that touching all those 7-8 literary essays of a literary icon, and that too of a stature of T.S. Eliot. So we are extremely thankful of Piyushbala ma'am. Saket, if there is any student, if there is any question.
There is one question by Amal Kumar. Amal, you can ask, you can unmute and ask yourself. Amal?
Saket asked the question
Okay.
on
Okay.
On his
He has
behalf,
typed.
one can ask.
Yeah, he has typed a question in the chat box. Criticism is backbone of healthy democracy. What are your views on current situation of our government and its criticism from writing, media, poetry, art, drama? How should be a person or government be criticized without offending the person or government? Something different, I feel.
So very different kind of
No,
a question.
criticism. I think what I got from the question, what I have come to understand from the question is that criticizing a government is not that you are offending a government. It's nothing like that. We need to criticize. I agree to a very good, but we should not degrade ourselves. We should not step too low by using bad words or something like that. Criticism,
I admire criticism. I may be supporting it, maybe I in the present government, I may not be accepting the past government, but criticism should come. And if about this COVID-19, let us be very liberal. It should not be an attack. I would say that if you look into the situation that is lockdown period, I find the government being on multiple platforms. So why not the message should come up where the other it is being facing here to even face in future. So we need to think it is our country, whichever the community may be, it is always the society ties that if you talk about the BJP government, you are hurting the Hindu sentiments. If you talk about this, you are hurting the Islamic sentiments. It is nothing like that. It is a few idiots, I think, that they try to make it things very much nasty. This is all I would say. Criticism I appreciate. In a very dignified way. That is what I got. The question. What I followed. Actually, the voice was not very much clear. That is what I could reply according to it. So, hello.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Anyone else? Any more questions?
So, Ankit, if you want, if you don't agree to it, you can give me some suggestions. Even I would like this kind of thing. I admire such kind of views. It is criticizing is not that somewhere you want to make a person low. It is nothing like that.
Obviously, ma'am. Agreeing, ma'am. But agreeing, ma'am.
Now, as an example, we should develop a habit of taking criticism in a very positive way. We should develop this temperament.
Yes. So true, ma'am. So true. Anyone else? Nafis. Yes, Nafis.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, please.
My question was, why is criticism important in literature?
No, as I told you, the purpose of criticism should be only to interpret such things which a reader might have missed. Suppose if you are reading Shakespeare, or suppose if you are reading even Milton, so we cannot get everything that what was in the mind of Milton, what actually was the scene, what was the political condition, what made Milton write this kind of poetry or this kind of art. So it is the critic is just a mediator between the writer, creative, and the reader. The positive thing is that the function of critic should be to connect the reader properly to the writer, and with interpretation of certain things about, and particularly about. So I told you that fact is very much important for the critic. That he should have the knowledge what the writer has written about. We as a reader may miss the thing. So this is only I feel.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Nafis and Amal, I have an observation connecting the two questions of the two of you. Do you remember what I was saying earlier? Eliot was actually a writer, or rather a theorist, who established a very different kind of an icon in literature. And as I said earlier, so continuing that he wrote against Shakespeare, he wrote against the Romantics, he wrote against the Victorians. One more thing I would like to add, and that you may find your answer there, is that he was he wrote against, or rather he declared himself a monarchic, a believer in the monarchic system when democracy was ruling in England, or rather ruling in Europe.
Yes.
So in a democratic world, here is Eliot who is negating democracy. In a literary world, when romanticism was ruling, Eliot says, I am a classicist. Right.
Yes.
In a religious world, when Protestantism and Anglicanism was ruling, Eliot says, I am a Catholic. So he was going against every established icon. He was basically, even when he supported the metaphysicals, why he supported Donne? Because Donne and the rest of metaphysicals were sidelined by the mainstream English poets. And he picked up Donne, he picked up the metaphysicals, established Donne and metaphysicals, and by doing so, he was actually establishing himself as a very different voice. और नफीस तुम उसके इम्पोर्टेंस को या उसकी क्रिटिसिज्म की अहमियत को इससे समझो कि मेरे जैसा एक बेवकूफ टीचर जो सर से पांव तक रोमांटिसिज्म में डूबा हुआ है, वो एक भी लफ्ज रोमांटिक्स के खिलाफ सुनना नहीं चाहता है. Even a teacher like me cannot reject, not condemn, I'm not using a good word, cannot reject T.S. Eliot. Although we believe that yes, he is there to mean business in 20th century literature and criticism. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Ekta? Yes. Go on, Ekta.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Am I audible? Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
ma'am,
you are
I have
audible.
a question. On one hand,
Yes.
T.S. Eliot talked about an art only being accomplished in its course when it was able to evoke the emotions in the readers with which they were written. The imagery should be clearly processed by the readers. And even though he praises the dissociation of sensibility,
Ekta, I would like you to repeat your question because I think
Ekta, go
it's
slow.
not very
Ekta,
clear.
go slow.
yes, sorry, ma'am. As I was asking, on one hand, T.S. Eliot talked about an art only being accomplished in its course when it was able to evoke the emotions in the readers with which they were written. And the imagery should have been clear and easily processed. Even though he appraises, and even though he
Your audio is
appraises
lost. Even though, further what you wanted to say, that even though
he appraises the dissociation of sensibility in the metaphysical poems and does so rightly, but still those sort of poems weren't easily processed by the normal readers, by which they could experience the same emotions with which the writer had written them. So in a way, wasn't he contradicting his own theories somehow in doing so?
So what is your question that you want Eliot? In Eliot's writing, you don't find him evoking such kind of emotion. This is the
No.
thing that you want to push it.
No, ma'am.
I was very much. Your voice is breaking. That is what. Hello, Ekta?
Yes, ma'am. No,
Ekta?
ma'am. My question. Hello? Ma'am, I'll type my.
Your connection is you want very much. Okay. Ekta, continue.
Ma'am, I have typed my question. Hello?
आवाज कट के आवाज आ रही है तो
Piyush ma'am, please see the message box. She has typed the question there in the message box.
Okay. Hi, ma'am. One hand here, Eliot talks only being accomplished in his cause when it is able to evolution in the which they were written, and even though he expresses the dissociation of sensibility in metaphysical poems, rightly so. Still, those sorts of poems weren't easily processed by normal until unless it was explain to them doesn't contradict his own ideas, theories. So, yes, very good question. You say that that is what if here is that what is the role of a critic here? You can say, but this is what the things that the reader is not able to grasp, or where the emotion is not clearly evoked. The role of a critic comes here is that he should try to explain the things before the reader in such a way that the reader is very much connected to the writer. So it is about contradicting his own theories. It is not. He has just talked about that what should be, what is the best way to connect with the reader. What is the best way? And if a writer, if a creative is not able to connect directly with the reader, then it is the critic who has a very important role to play here to make the reader connected or evoke that kind of emotion within the reader with, on behalf of the creative. And this can be only done if the critic himself has evoked such kind of emotion which the creative wants to bring for the reader. It is not. It is not. I don't agree that it is about contradicting his theories. Where, and if you talk about that Eliot has failed himself to create emotion, then you can say that he has somewhere himself, he is trying to contradict. But on a general, I don't agree that theory it is what
All right. Hello. Saket?
Yes, ma'am, you're not audible. I think she has lost the connection.
She has lost the connection. She's not in the list also. No, she's here, but
She is,
माइक ऑफ हो गया है उनका और शायद वीडियो भी
ma'am,
ऑफ.
can you hear us?
पीयूष मैम.
I think she is unable to hear us.
कनेक्टिविटी नहीं हो पा रही है. अब उनकी जगह पे नफीस.
She is not in the list now.
हाँ.
Should we wait?
Bashu, what we should do?
हाँ सर, ये तो कनेक्टेड नहीं है लगता है.
हाँ.
नेटवर्क इशू
हमको
है.
लगता है कि we can call her and say.
हाँ.
Should officially end this 1:30 तो हो रहा है ना.
हाँ हाँ हाँ. आ गई.
हेलो I'm there.
Yes ma'am. Yes ma'am.
वो कनेक्शन थोड़ा सा ये हो गया.
हाँ.
Okay. Can we miss?
Hello, I'm here.
जी.
Yes ma'am.
Saket, let us conclude now.
Yes sir. Thank you, Piyushbala ma'am, for giving us your precious time for this wonderful lecture. We thank you, ma'am, and also to all the listeners who have been with us. Thank you so much. Thanks, all of you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. To see you again, everyone. Thanks, Yaya sir, and Vasudhara ma'am, Saket, and all the students who are present here.
Thank you.
And,
thank you so much.
Thank you for listening me so patiently. I don't know how far I have justified this thing, but I have tried my best.
It was really very enlightening. It was really very extensive also. So don't think that how far you succeeded. You succeeded well.
Okay, thank you for giving me this opportunity, Professor Yaya.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Bahut shukriya. Thank you. And thank you, students, especially those who have stayed with us till now. Thank you so much.
And thanks to the students who raised questions. That is what exactly. I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you once again.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, sir, then we conclude this session.
We should conclude the session.
Okay.
Yes.
So the students have to be informed about the 27th program.
हाँ, कुछ बता दो, जो बचे हुए उनको बता दो.
आप बता दीजिए, मेरे यहाँ शोर हो रहा है.
Acha. Dear students, those who are here and we can listen to us, this was, as you know, the last lecture of the second series that we have organized of under Academy title. We will be coming up with few more lectures like this under this Academy title in the month of June now, not in this month or not in this week, but towards the end of this month, we are coming up with two very important events. And all of us in the Department of English, as your teachers, I mean, hope and wish and suggest also, and I strongly suggest that you should not miss those two events that we have planned on 27th and 29th. On 27th and on 29th, we are experimenting with a new idea, and we have named it as Writers Beyond Distance. And in this, we will be inviting the creative writers of English and even maybe other languages also to talk to you. In those lectures, in those interactions with authors of literature, we will also have guests from other departments, other colleges, even we will have guests from other states also. So that is why we request you all here, and even we request you to tell others also in your group that you should inform them that we should be present in the lecture, in the two interactions on 27th and 29th. You will be happy to know that on 27th, we will be having a very important contemporary English writer. You must have heard the name, Tabish Khair. So we are inviting Tabish Khair to interact with you as writer on 27th. And we are inviting Shauna Singh Baldwin, a very important diasporic writer of Indian origin residing in America. So we invite you and we request you and we strongly suggest you not to miss those two lectures. I request you also to inform in your groups that you should not and we should not miss the lectures. Plus, a few students who are here of semester 6, I request them to take some responsibility of reading Tabish Khair, at least a few poems or one or two things by Tabish Khair, and a few poems or a story or something by Shauna Singh Baldwin also, so that you can understand them well and so that you may ask certain questions. So I especially request semester 6 students. Yes, I am requesting semester 3 and semester 1 also to go through a few literary pieces of Tabish Khair and Shauna Singh Baldwin, right? And try to be present on 27th and 29th. Do remember that it is a matter of great pride for us. It is a matter of great reputation for us also, because it is the joint responsibility of the teachers and the students of a specific department that how it is responding to its guest. तो आप अपने मेहमानों को कैसे रिसीव कर रहे हैं और अपने मेहमानों को कैसे की तरफ कैसे रिस्पॉन्ड कर रहे हैं, ये इक्वल जिम्मेदारी है आपके डिपार्टमेंट के टीचर्स की और आपकी. So we request you to be there on 27th and 29th. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And I'm sure that this is an opportunity which our students will not hopefully miss, because indeed we do not have the opportunity to listen to such important figures. It's probably because of the lockdown that they also have consented to give us their time. So we hope to see you in large numbers. And with this, we sign off for today. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
thank you, Neha ma'am, Das sir, Saket bhai.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.